Of course, that can get boring. When that happens, well, I just go out and get new ones.
Hello everybody, and finally welcome to the Error Sans Retrospective. Thank you to Dion06 for requesting this video, and if you have any Undertale characters, AUs, or AU characters like Ink or Fresh, if you would like me to do a retrospective on, leave them in the comments below, and hopefully I will get to them. Hopefully. This one took a while. Anyways, let's get into the retrospective. Error Sans is an AU version of Sans created by Crayon Queen / Lover of Piggies. Error Sans originally starred in his own ass blog, starting in 2015. The ass blog can, to an extent, be split into 3 separate parts, so this part of the retrospective will also be split into three more sections. Great, not complicated at all. The first third, which I dubbed in the script Meet the Error, focuses on the askers, or the voices as they're called in the series, just asking Error basic questions about his life, what AUs he's destroyed, his brother, stuff like that. Very casual questions. They also just get into random shenanigans. The first big piece of backstory we get is that once Error showed up in the Anti-Void, he just slept for a long time before he got bored. And
then I talked, yelled, screamed, and kept screaming, and I screamed and screamed. Someone would hear, right? Someone would help, but no one came, and the screams started screaming back. Wait, what were we talking about?
Soon after that, we hear how Error encountered Corfrisk for the first time. Error tried to destroy a timeline where somehow Undyne was the only survivor. But right before Error destroyed the AU and killed Undyne, Corfrisk showed up. They saved Undyne by taking them to the Omega timeline and offered Error their help. Error, though, wanted to destroy all glitches or anomalies, and seeing Corfrisk and the Undyne as one of them, tried to kill them. Corfrisk ended up escaping with Undyne, though. After people asked enough about Underswap, Error would end up showing them what happened. The basic gist of the story is that Error went through Underswap, slaughtering almost everyone. Underswap Papyrus, though, thought it was the human killing everyone, and was shocked when he saw a version of his brother was responsible for it. Error would then reveal to Papyrus that he had kept the Underswap Sans alive, but is referred to as Blueberry a lot in the comic and by Crayon Queen, the creator. So I'll refer to them as that as well. Anyways, Error would end up pulling some strings, I'm stupid, and make Blueberry fight his brother. During the battle, after Error is rambling about timelines, odds, and anomalies, Blueberry would try to talk to Error and try to reason with him. It would seem that he would start to get through to Error, but to no avail. Papyrus would then end up cutting his brother from Error's strings and kick Error down the corridor before telling Blueberry to run. After a short battle between Error and Underswap Papyrus, Error would have Papyrus pinned and would start to talk to Error and break through to him for a moment. Underswap Papyrus would then attack Error. Error would flee, but after a taunt from Papyrus would end up taking Blueberry with him into his Anti-Void, which is where this whole series takes place. I forgot to mention that, didn't I? Nah, I'm not going back to redo this. We would then cut back to the present, where Error would reveal to the voices Blueberry, and with which the second third of Ask Error would start, which is dubbed in the script as the flashback Error, I could have come up with a better name, but sure. In the second section, we find out Blueberry can't hear the voices. It appears that the voices are part of Error's corrupted code that makes him hear them, but that's just a theory. Anyways, so Blueberry can answer the voices' questions. Error tells him what they say. During this third, we find out about Error's glasses, Error's tentacle mouth thing, how Error likes to crochet, how there are more Error versions of people out there, Error's obsession with undernovilla, and more about Error's backstory. Most of that is self-explanatory, but let's touch on a few, starting with the other Errors. Those being Error Papyrus and Error Undyne, who we meet after Corfris brings Underswap Papyrus to the Omega timeline, with the two Errors watching from the shadows. What we learn about Error's backstory is this. So, after the voices ask Error about his past enough, he opens up his memories as he himself doesn't really remember. The flashback starts with Error waking up next to the door to the ruins in Snowden Forest. Error is wearing his glasses and has his hoodie up. Error then exclaims,
Can't be. I'm free. Oh my, I'm free. Actually, it's too much to look at. Too much. Heck, this isn't safe. This place is already so colorful. Go back. I just gotta sit and think.
though we don't know what he is free from. Error then talks to the universe he landed in's version of Toriel. He starts to visit that door regularly and eventually finds out that Toriel is a ghost in the CU, and that he is in the universe that I believe is called Ghost Tale. Anyways, after lashing out at Ghost Toriel and Ghost Sans, who's also there, we cut back to present Error and Blueberry. Blueberry wants to stop watching, but Error wants to continue because he's remembering more of his past, and the voices are, demanding for him to continue. Error and Blueberry would get into a small argument, and after Error tries to make Blueberry hate him by showing Blueberry his universe's human soul, Underswap Karis, Blueberry would tell Error what Error's weakness was. Friendship. Yeah, that wouldn't go well for Blueberry, because Error would get upset and would trap Blueberry in the anti-void with Underswap Karis' soul. After a while, Blueberry would start to hear the voices as well, ending the second third, and starting the final third, which I dubbed Aftermath. This is also, by far, the shortest third, with not many comics being a part of it. Hello, quick me intervention. I messed up. So for both this next section and also the first one, I guess, some of the stuff is out of order. Some of the stuff I mentioned in this segment actually happened in the first one, and I had watched a video that was a dub of this comic before I had actually read it. And in between me writing the script and me recording this, which was a good, by the way, over a year and a half, I have actually read the comic. Yeah, some of the stuff is out of order. Like Error's glasses was mentioned in the first segment. I just didn't know until recently. So yeah, some of the stuff I mentioned here actually happened in the first segment. My apologies. Not much happens in this third. The only real things that happen are Blueberry starts to become an Error, Underswap Papyrus ends up in the Omega timeline, and we find out Error thinks he's the only Error, which we know that isn't true. Anyways, after that, Ask Error was cancelled. The last post appears to have been made on May 18th, 2016. 2 years later, in 2018, the creator Crayon Queen would make a post explaining what would have happened if Ask Error Sans had continued. I'll just tell you what would have happened. Blueberry would have become an Error, dubbed Blue Bearer. Error would have been horrified about Blue Bearer, and Corfris would take Blue Bearer to the Omega timeline at the end of the series. Error Undyne would have been the main antagonist and would have gone into a spiral of rage after seeing Error with glasses, because Error Undyne thinks they're alphases. She then would have gone on a murderous rampage, destroying everything in her path. Crayon Queen described Error as a man-baby, and that he isn't as powerful as he acts, but that Error Undyne was a massive threat. Blue Bearer, trying to hold on to what little sanity he has left, would try to convince Error to stop Error Undyne. The Omega Timeline would fight back against Error Undyne with help from Error, who's only really doing this because Error Undyne's existence pisses him off. After Error Undyne is stopped, Error just disappears and goes off on his own. Grand Queen, though, couldn't remember any plans for Error Papyrus, but if I were to guess, Error and Error Papyrus would have had an altercation where, I don't know, Error might have actually questioned killing him. But, you know, that's just a theory. And also, Error is Gino, and the reason why Error Undyne thought Error's glasses were Alphys's is because they were. So, basically, Gino, after the events of Aftertale, would receive one of Alphys's old prescriptions due to his meltinous thing causing him to have bad vision. Wow, really? Then Gino would start messing around with his determination powers, even though Sans would tell him not to, and would accidentally send himself into the Anti-Void. In his last moments of sanity, he was furious that he got his happy ending and then it was ruined. He was mad at everyone, everything, except himself, and then became, well, Error, which was kind of the manifestation of all those feelings. That does still leave a few holes in the story, like Error Papyrus and Undyne's origins. I do have a theory about Error Undyne, though. I think somehow it's the Undyne that Corfrisk saved from Error. I don't know, maybe it's just because it's the only really other Undyne in the whole series, but, you know. Okay, I think that's everything about the original story. On to part 2. Alright, the AU versions of Error. The main one is in the only real variation of another character in an Error style that is actually popular, is Fatal Error. Fatal Error is a different Error version of Gino. Yeah, it's confusing, keep up. From when Error tried to kill Gino on the save screen. But due to Gino's determination and the save screen not being able to have people die while in it, Gino survived and became Fatal Error, a being that goes around killing Sanses to try and rebuild his brother. Fatal Error also appears in Underverse, which we are going to talk about in a minute. And yeah, he has a great fight scene, but he doesn't really do a ton. Unlike Fatal Error, Error actually has quite a big role in Underverse, serving as one of the primary antagonists. He first appears in 0.0, where he makes a deal with Ink saying that they will no longer create or destroy after, well, half the multiverse self-destructs. Just to note, this Error does not seem to have gone through most of the events of Ask Error, with it likely splitting not long before the Q&A started. Error later appears in 1.0, where we learn that he is the one who stole Cross's soul, which ended up accidentally freeing X-Tail Kara and causing the entire events of the show to happen in the first place. Error next shows up in Extra Scene 1, where he talks and asks Ink about what game Ink is playing with a mysterious somebody, X-Tail Gaster, and he also mentions that he could take everyone as his puppet. Wow. Foreshadowing. Anyways, after Error doesn't appear in the episodes featuring the key AU from his original story, he appears in Extra Scene 2, where we see him watching Undernovella. Then, all of a sudden, Ink pops in and destroys the whole AU with help from X-Gaster. But it was all a dream. Or was it? Honestly, it's left kind of ambiguous. He then goes to the multiverse and strings it all up, preparing to destroy it if he finds out that Ink broke his truce. He then goes into X-Tail and encounters Fresh, who is left there by Ink to guard it. He then notices the people of Underswap in the X-Tail AU, and, to quote the man himself, finally understands what the game is about, and then declares that the truce is over. He would then appear in 0.4, being the main antagonist of the episode. Basically. He shows up midway through, taunting X-Kara with his original soul. Also, something I realized only midway through the writing process of this is Nightmare and Error's only interaction in Underverse. That's a bit of a shame. Error asks Nightmare for the location of Ink, but Nightmare then confirms to Error that Ink hasn't been taking his vials, so he can't track him due to Ink not feeling any emotions. Error and Killer Sans then notice that Outer Sans and Normal Sans are watching, then have a 5-second battle with Outer Sans before Killer cuts him through the chest. Error would then capture Underswap, Underfill, and Classic Sans and take control of their souls using his wire string things. Error would then call out Ink, who had just showed up, on basically breaking their deal, and he would threaten to destroy everything in the multiverse, including the 3 Sanses he currently has captured. After Ink basically says that they aren't his friends, and, you know, a bunch of lore crap happens thanks to Xkara. Error would take the Xgaster vial from Ink, saying that it made him more stupid, and then the two of them would have an epic battle. Anyways, then Ink would go on an evil monologue and Error would call him a psycho, before Ink would drop the vial on the ground, bringing back Xgaster in his entirety. Error then basically says to ask Xgaster, "Are you serious? Your plan was to give half your soul to Ink, and go hide somewhere in the multiverse in the meantime. Damn, you're lazy." Error would then destroy the entire multiverse, minus of course the classic AU and all of its branches. Ink and Xgaster, being upset, would then yeet Error back to the Anti-Void, and Xgaster would take Cross's soul back. Error would then appear 2 real-life years later, in Underverse 0.7 Part 1. Ink would go to the multiverse looking for Fresh, but would be grabbed by Error. Error would start beating the crap out of Ink, while complaining that Ink stole the spotlight, and basically confirming that he erased the multiverse for attention. So Error really is a man, baby. Error would then be hit into a pile of exploding Furbies. Yes, that happened. By Fresh. Fresh would leave, and Error would have a short battle with Ink and Cross, who's here now. Eventually, Ink would point one of Error's own Gaster Blasters at him, knocking him out. Later in the episode, Fresh and Ink would merge into Fresh Ink, with Error showing up to try and destroy him again, thinking that Fresh Ink was Ink, before a lot of stuff would happen. The battle's pretty frantic, and it's also kind of embarrassing that Error lost to Fresh Ink. You know, after Fresh Ink uses parasite powers or whatever, Error would flee, promising to destroy Fresh Ink in the future. After that, we don't really know what happens to Error. Gino and Fatal Error both appear in 0.7 Part 2, and there is a tiny little shot where you can see Error, but it's like a one-frame thing. That's all for the AUs. On to the conclusion. Error Sans is definitely one of the most popular AU Sanses, and for good reason. He's very well written, and he's also an antagonist who can be intimidating, but also just very funny. And that's always going to be very popular. He also just has an amazing design, and the strings are very unique offensive and defensive attack. So, yeah, personally I just like him because, I don't know, I just think he's cool. He's my personal favorite AU Sans. I don't even know why, but he is. And his whole thing is very interesting, and his connection to Gino I think is pretty cool. Honestly, it was going to be my channel avatar for a little bit, but eventually I just decided, I want to make someone who is my own. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and thank you so much to Dion06 for recommending this in the first place. Bye guys. See you guys soon.
elaborate do we have to make this fight? Get down here!